It's Travis Wayne Goodsell. By being married with my first wife, she took me up to Canada, and needing money, but not being a Canadian, it was tough to get a job. But McGrath had a volunteer fire department that her father was on, and so he was able to get me on, and so we had lots of fire experiences, even though McGrath is a pretty small town. Hutterites were the biggest fire starters because of their particular tractors during harvest time. They would run a little bit too hot and catch the grain on fire that would get stuck up on their tractor. There was one time on a Sunday, it was a state conference. An area representative, or some member of the 70 maybe, came to speak at our state conference, and during his talk, you have a full packed stake center, and then all of a sudden, from all over the audience, in the chapel and in the back, you hear beepers going off. Beep, 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 beep. And then we start getting up, those of us who are firefighters in the audience. We get up and walk out the door and rush over to the fire station, which was just down the block. Well, almost next door, actually. And we were able to be the fastest in Canada, responding to an emergency in under 2 minutes, which was recorded as the fastest time in Canada. But the guest speaker there in that state conference, I was a little surprised. And so the stake president had to get up and whisper in his ear that there was a fire call. And it turns out it was a shed that day that had caught fire. Another time, and it was early in the morning, and myself and the father-in-law were awoken with our scanners, and had to rush out in a frosty winter morning. It was nearing spring, I guess, but it was still frozen. But as the day went on, it warmed up. But it was a house fire, and we pulled up to the house. I got the hose because I was a hoser, and went to the side of the house. That was my station, and I put out the fire at that end, spraying in the window and all over the roof as well as it was spilling out. And we were trying to find out if there was anybody inside, and you know, it was early in the morning, so nobody knew. One person finally came by and said that they couldn't get a hold of so-and-so, and they were worried that he may have gone in the house to look for a person in there. And so sure enough, when we put out the fire, the back room that had the back door, the guy just barely missed it and collapsed from smoke inhalation, because you can tell whether they have the soot in the mouth or if they don't, as to when they would have died, either before or during the fire. And when I had come around to see the body, because several of the firefighters had already had to go lie down for being queasy from the smell of the body, and so I was asked if I wanted to go help dig away from the body so that the examiners can get it. And I too had to go lie down. The smell was too much for me, and when I got my composure, I went back with the chief or the captain, and he was teaching me how to investigate a crime scene if one is there. That's how I knew about the smoke in the mouth and all that, and also to identify the source of the fire, as well as the incendiary device, whether it was a wall socket or a cigarette or some other thing. And looking at the body was not really traumatic. I still remember it. I see it right now. The stomach was fully exposed. The internal organs were, open to view, just like a cadaver, I guess. And we just assumed, because we didn't know, because he's dead, that he must have tried to search the house for anybody that was inside, and made it to the back room, but wasn't able to make it out of the house in time. So nobody else was in the house, but so, and it sort of gets you thinking about heroism. People who rush into a burning building without protection that firefighters do. We don't go into burning buildings without our full gear, an oxygen tank and such, because it's no good for anybody if we end up dying, because we're the ones who were able to put out the fire. So if we die, there's nobody to put out the fire, and so we have to go in fully prepared. But this regular guy didn't have the necessary gear to protect himself, and though he was apparently concerned about making sure that nobody was in the house, he lost his life with nobody there to save and no preparation to protect him going into the fire. And being a firefighter teaches you a lot about life, similar to being a basketball player. You got Hoosiers, but yeah, my basketball trainer, he was Coach Lubin. Coach Farr asked him to help out with us big guys, and so Coach Lubin, he'd already put in a number of guys into the Lakers and other organizations, so he was very experienced and talented in his own right, but he always wore his boots to practice, because Norco is cow country. And yeah, and he was able to teach us about free throw shooting, as well as the hook shot, and posting up down in the key. And so yeah, he taught us how to break a guy's leg and not get called for a foul if they're gonna get too close to you. But I was going in as a 0%, probably even -% free throw shooter, because junior high, I couldn't even hit the rim. But under his training, I got up to 82% after my first year, and yeah, he taught me the physics behind the free throw shot, and if you follow it exactly, it is free points, as he called it. And so that's why he taught us on how to get the other player to foul you each and every single time you get the ball, so that you go and you get free points. If he's not going to back off of you, then you get him to foul you, and then you get free points for your team. And he taught us the physics, how to line up, how to hold the ball, and how to release the ball. And he even told us that when you release it, you feel it, and you know you made the shot before it goes in. There's just that feeling inside that you had done all the right things, and that's sort of like your confirmation that you did it right. And yeah, 82%. And by the end of that first year. And so with firefighting, it's the same way. You have to know about fire. You have to know how to battle fire. You got to go to the base, not the flames. Because if you just shoot at the flames, the fire is going to continue to rage. You got to go at the base. And because there's a tendency to go after the flames, because those are where it's spreading, and so you can get tricked in that way. But yeah, fire has a definite, almost like it's intelligent, but all it's doing is feeding off of the oxygen in the air, and so I guess it's backdraft. Richie Cunningham, or Ron Howard, I guess is his name, is the one who either wrote or directed or both with that movie, and so they sort of treat fire as if it's a living organism, and so that brought back memories watching that movie. And so if I'm gonna tie it into a moral of the story for Mormons, you got to be prepared, Mormons, because when the fires come, if you're not prepared, you're just wasting your life, sacrificing for no purpose, nobody to save, and you just lose your life for a meaningless cause. And so as all of these facts and evidence come out about the corruption of Brigham Young, and if you're not knowledgeable about the church, if you don't know the church, know the doctrines, know how other Mormons interpret the doctrines different than how you know it, and you can't just say, well, I believe, therefore everybody else is wrong. It doesn't work that way. And so the whole putting on the whole armor of God thing, that's similar to a firefighter. But in this case, it's for your soul. If you think that the church is true, but then you go out and you lie and deceive other people and abuse other people, or allow others to abuse other people, separate families at the border, for example, calling them illegal immigrants. They haven't even gone to court. If there are people trying to get into our country and they're not criminals, they're not illegal. The whole concept of asylum is such that it doesn't matter where you come in, whether it's plane, by boat, or by land, either at a port or in between ports. Doesn't matter. If you're seeking refuge, if you're seeking asylum, you're not illegal. It's like self-defense. It's not a crime. Murder is a crime. Self-defense and military service, that's not a crime. And so if you're not understanding that, and if you're perpetuating corruption and violations of the Constitution, remember, Joseph Smith prophesied that the Constitution would hang by a thread. Are you preparing yourself to defend the Constitution? Do you even know that it needs to be saved? Because apparently you don't. Because with all the comments I'm getting, with all the thumbs down I'm getting, with all of the hate that I hear and read, it tells me you guys aren't prepared. You're just wasting your lives. You have no interest in humanity. You have no interest but your own. And in many cases, just your family, which is a white supremacist concept. Family first. That was the KKK slogan, was America first. And so white supremacists get more specific and say family first, which means white people first. So there's lots of things in the church that you need to know about, and I'm trying to help you know where to go and what those things are. Because critics, they're going by what the church has said and confessed to. Not too many critics do their own research. They just originally were unhappy with the way things are done based on what they understood Christianity should be. So for example, you have a Christian group who believe certain things from the Bible interpretation, and because Mormons aren't doing it their way, they don't like Mormons for that reason. It's like Republicans don't like Democrats because they're not Republican, and Democrats don't like Republicans because they're not Democrat. That's ridiculous. But when you actually do the research and you realize, hey, wait a minute, no, that's a crime. No, that's abuse. No, that's a lie. That's deception. That's a cover-up. Then you start realizing, no, this can't be Jesus's church. It can't be run by Jesus. Because I read in the New Testament of what Jesus did. He didn't hang out with the rich. He didn't take money from the poor so that he could live a rich lifestyle with fancy clothes, nice expensive homes on the bench of Draper, or Draper too, or Bountiful, down the block from a temple that you yourself had placed there so that your property values could increase. so that your family assets would increase. And yet Mormons just say, oh, well, they speak for God, they deserve it. And what about you? You let them tell you that you're lower than the dust and you're not worthy to have the lifestyle that they're living? And you actually fall for that? You know, you miss things too. When the bishop was caught for sex trafficking, the LDS church spokesperson came out and said, you know, it's inappropriate for members and local leaders. They're missing somebody, but all of you missed it. You didn't hear what they didn't say. What about the prophets? Isn't it unacceptable for prophets to do that too? Why couldn't the spokesman say that? Why couldn't he just summed it all up by saying it's inappropriate for anybody to do this? And we are ashamed that one of our bishops has been doing this. We have taken the appropriate necessary action to have him excommunicated. Is that too much to ask for? Apparently so. So I'm going to keep trying to get through to you, Mormons. I don't hate you. And yet I still get comments saying that I'm the hater, that I'm the one attacking you. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is point out all of the errors. And these aren't mistakes, human errors. These are criminal, abusive, bigoted, racist errors. Criminal. Hatred. That's all I'm doing, is pointing it out. You cannot protect it. You cannot defend that kind of behavior, that kind of culture. And so there's still going to be guys who think they know better than me, who, you know, can't confront me, because I always am able to out-debate any Mormon who thinks that corruption is the way to go. That's why you guys lose in a debate against me. Because I'm not attacking you. You are attacking me, defending a corrupt church. You are not prepared to go to battle against me. It's like the Lamanites, without armor, just their loincloths, and going up with rocks. Against me, Captain Moroni, with the brand new full body armor and crossbows and reinforced swords. You know, there's no way you're gonna beat me, because I'm prepared. I wouldn't be doing this just out of an emotional response, but that's exactly what you're doing. You're responding with emotions, which also causes you to lose. I came in to this battle against the church fully prepared. And the church, they've left you on your own. And so none of you are prepared. And you're like that guy who ran into the building fully engulfed in flames, thinking you're going to save the day, save the church, and yet you die in vain, saving no one. Think about that.